वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Now we will offer our obeisances at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishanam. O most magnificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani and you are widely distributing the pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Krishna Varnam Tisa Krishnam Sangopang Astraparsanam Yagge Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Sumedasa. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Nana Shastra Vicharanati Nipunam Sadharma Sanstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhavana Manya Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Anandena Taliko Banderu Pasanatana Ragujugo Sri Diva Gopalato. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Radas Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the divine couple Sri Radha and Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashka Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. With this, I welcome all the devotees once again to today's session. Today we will be studying lesson 26. But before we start 26, let us see what we learned yesterday in lesson 25 in very brief.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Thanks for the service. So, discuss the lesson 25 as Prabhuji mentioned, and chapter 18. This refers to Dasmula Tattva 8. So, discussion between Babaji and Vajranath continues, but as a normal twist and turns, we see Vani Madhav entering there, and he was so wicked, and the discussion, and he wanted to kill both the Vaishnavas, and as we know, Lord protects the Vaishnavas, his devotees, and he was eliminated. So that's the twist and turn, and discussion continues after that. It's a really nice discussion. So let's focus on basically Vajranath asking question to Babaji, and it starts with the Dasmula Tattva 8 and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's arrival, and then we'll go through the different philosophies from there. So Dasmula Tattva 8 talks about entire spiritual and material creation is manifested from the Lord's potency. As we are aware, external, internal, and jivas are marginal potency that we are discussing on that. Now, with that background, the first question comes up is that since Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, did he basically make any approve the previous philosophies prevalent at that time, and did he make any changes? That is where it started. So that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's again, we just now went through the Dasmula Tattva. The creation happens with Lord's potency. but there were other philosophies prevalent at that time. Did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu make any change? He reconciled. Just to finish that, and then we'll go into real philosophies. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, there were some other, apart from that, Shunyavadis and Mayavadis, but in Vaishnavas also there were philosophies. Different four sampradayas was there. The Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, Gaudiya Sampradaya brought Advaita philosophy, totally different. Jiva and Paramatma different. Then again, there were other sampradayas, Sri sampradayas. They brought Vishishta Advait. Then Shiva Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami brought Shuddha Advait, and Kumar Sampradaya, Dvait, and I think Nimbakar, Dvait and Advait. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reconciles with the simultaneity, Achinta Veda with simultaneity, same and different. Jiva and Ishwar. If you look at here, they are Jivas in Mahamsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, even though we are minute part and particles of parcels of the Lord. Yes, we come under material world, under the influence of Maya, and we are conditioned, and how to go back. These are the basic philosophies we will be talking about in the Sharad Prabhuji explained on last. So what is here? Vedic evidence of various prevailing philosophy. This is where the discussion continued. Now we have to understand Shankaracharya's advent of Shankaracharya at that. So when he arrived, at that time, prior to that, there was a Buddha. So which is the Vaidism. And Shankaracharya looks at that available philosophies of Vaidism, and he makes some changes as advised by Lord Krishna to him to suit at that time. Again, bring back hijacked, as Charupad's notes mentioned that the prevailing that what you call tamoguna people, giving a bhakti path which was twisted and turns going to the Shunyavadis and all those things. So Lord wants to set the stage very clearly on that. So, and he was asked to put a bunch of lies and make such a twisted so that people, intelligent man can also see that there's a twist and turn. Again, come back back to the original. This is the background of all. We are aware of that. Why, in the first place, why Buddhism came just to stop the killing. And the Lord could have done some preaching at that time, to correct that philosophy. But instead of that, we understand that he decided it's better to get rid of Vedas and reestablish, and then gradually, as God does everything by his own way. So this is where Adi Shankaracharya was brought with his Achinta Veda, with his philosophy. So now the real discussion starts here. So Shankaracharya looks at that there are two parameters, as I say, that what is the Vivartavad and Parinamvad. As Sadhu Prabhuji mentioned, that Parinamvad is a result, transformation. Vivartavad is a misinterpretation. And this is exactly Adi Shankara does that. He picks up whatever is there, Shunyavadi, and try to nullify that. And now the discussion focuses on that versus Vaishnava philosophy. Is there any background, or is there any validation from Vedas or Upanishad? That is where the focus is there, because everything Vaishnava does is as root in Vedas. This is where everything is on that. So Parinamvad, he refutes Shankaracharya refutes the Parinamvad, saying that there are two parts to that, which are Brahma Parivarvad and Shakti Parinamvad. That means transformation. So Brahma Parinamvad is primarily for creation, because the whole focus is the creation and maintenance of the jivas, and again liberation. This is what is the focus in a different philosophy, how it takes place there. So Brahma Parivad, as Bacharya intervened and mentioned that it has no, it's impersonal. So there's nothing on that, no transformation takes place, and Vedas support that because it's absolute and impersonal, and there's no second to that, and so any changes to it is rejected. Then it has got another component, Shakti Parivarvad, which is basically Jivas. But again, that also is refuted by Shankaracharya, and he proposed his own Vivartavad theory, in which he says that idea is that Jivas are coming from Brahman. Brahman is just pure, and under some condition or circumstances, when the Brahman, Jiva thinks is separate, and that time he appears here, and again, comes under Maya. But when everything is done, Maya and all that, he can go and mix, go back. So two things are mentioned here: either he can get a size mukti, or covered shunyavad, like going to the Vaidism. So that is where the whole discussions are there. Eventually, during the discussion, Vaishnav, he asked questions, because when Mayavadi philosophers put forward, he could not understand on that. And let's go some of them. This is the highlight of the whole discussion that Sharad Prabhuji walked us through that. The supremacy of is there any truth in Mayavadi or Shunyavadi philosophy? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as we discussed that again, Achinda Vedabhat. This is where we are focusing. So quickly, some questions are there. There are questions from 116 to 125. One of the question is basically, it is a mention, it's a, what is the question 120 question? Understand the sober. Okay, I'll just go a little up. Mayavadi and impersonalist. That the soul is a really Brahman, but becomes bewildered into thinking that he is an individual spirit soul. And the individual spirit soul is a reflection of Brahman, because it's coming from Brahman. Brahman dreams that he has become many individual spirit souls, and we have a lot of examples of that. And none of the above are the true Vivartavad. So again, Babaji disputes all the Vivartavad, and he gives some examples below. So it is a mention that in the question 120, it's to try to understand soberly and carefully Maya Shakti, and this little focus, because as we saw that Brahma Parinama is it's not there's no transformation. Transformation is just like milk converting yogurt. So that yogurt is the transformation from milk. So like that, there is no philosophy transformation. So it is said that perverted reflection of Swarup Shakti, that is basically internal potential of the Lord, and cannot enter the spiritual world and control the material world, because how it controls the material? Because of individual spirit soul is involved by gross and subtle covering, that we saw that soul is so weak, small compared to the Maya, and he can be bewildered into that. So again, going to the 120 question there, the fundamental misconception is that individual spirit soul is a Brahman, but under the spell of Maya thinks that he is an individual soul. When soul becomes free from Maya, the soul learns that he is actually Brahman. So all those are refuted. Then the individual soul also ceases to exist. In this way, liberation is thought to the mean of nirvana, or merging into Brahman effulgence, merging into the Brahman. Question 1 to 2. It talks about now the rest of the discussion continues with the Lord Shiva being a Vaishnava. Why did he bring that philosophy of Mayavadi, knowing that people will misuse it? And answer to that, as briefly I mentioned, and Sharad explained very nicely on that. Shiva, even though he's a Vaishnava, he was asked to bring back the entire philosophy from Shunyavadi to reestablish basically again Vedas. In a different way, instead of directly reestablished in stages, he was asked to reestablish, and he brings philosophy which is rejected, as we see here. So, as a Vaishnava, we accept Shankaracharya, what he said. We don't accept his philosophy, but we accept the circumstances in which he did all that, the Mayavadi philosophy. I think these were the primary focus of the discussion. Please book and again the last slide talks about giving a Vedic passage refute the Mayavadi theory. There are different evidences provided. I think that is what is there. So I'll stop here. There are a lot of things here, many slides we have to go through. I'll stop here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'll just have one correction. What Prabhuji has said. This Vivartavada and the Parinamavada, they were not opposed by Shankaracharya. He had propounded them to suit his own way of thinking, which was against the Vedas and why and all that we learned yesterday. But they were opposed by the Vaishnava philosophers, especially Madhavacharya and others. And also we have read in our Sandarbha classes how Jiva Goswami also has refuted all this. That means all these theories, they are refuted by our Vaishnava acharyas because of various reasons that we have learned. Now, today, let us go to lesson 26. Just a second, I'll share this slide. Yes, lesson 26. Yesterday we covered lesson 25. And today we'll be studying lesson 26. Basically, we are studying Achintya Vedaveda Tattva and Avideya Tattva. And the next slide, here lesson 26, Achintya Vedaveda Tattva and Avideya Tattva. In this, Brajanatha will be asking questions 124 to 125. Then Brajanath will be asking questions 126 also, and Vijay Kumar will be asking questions 1 to 11. Now this is what we are going to discuss today. Now what happens, these are the themes 1 to 5. Babaji's answers to Sri Brajanatha's questions 116 to 140 and Sri Vijay Kumar 1 to 54. This will be studying in this till lesson 28. Now, in yesterday we saw the various themes, and today we'll see the themes in lesson 26. Lesson 25 and 26, this we have seen, and here we saw that Vicious Benimadava, how he plotted to attack his cousin, that is Brajanatha, Babaji Mahasai, and the other Vaishnavas when he returned from Srivasa Angana, but he died himself of a snake bite. And then Babaji critically analyzed with the Vedic evidence of various prevalent philosophies on the ontology of Jiva from Brahman in the context of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintya Vedaveda Tattva. And that we saw yesterday. And now today we'll see the entry of Brajanatha's maternal uncle Vijay Kumara. And then we'll also be discussing about the Avideya Tattva and Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti will be discussed later on. Let us go on to the next slide. Now, the theme 2, Brajanatha's question 124, how this philosophy of inconceivable, that is simultaneous oneness and difference in the teaching of the Vedas. He is questioning this, and this will be answered by Babaji Mahasaya. Now, he is answering in two parts, the oneness part and the difference part. Now, how they are one, how the oneness is proved by the Vedas, by the Vedic literature. Like one example is everything is Brahman. It is given in the Chandogya Upanishad. Then about oneness, in the beginning, only the Supreme existed. There was none but Him. This is also given in the Chandogya Upanishad. That is, at the time of creation, only the Supreme Lord existed. It is also given in the Chatusloki Bhagavata. In the first verse also it is given, the same thing is given. That means the Vedic literature, they are proving that in the beginning there was only one person, and that was the Supreme Lord and nobody else. The Jivas were not also there. Then the third proof is the Supreme Soul is everything. It is given in the Chandogya Upanishad. And the fourth one, Svetasvatara Upanishad, is the sun shines in all directions, above, below, and across. So the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead rules all creatures. And that is what is to be understood by everybody, because everything in this material world is the Supreme Lord only, and His energies, they are ruling this complete universe, and no Jiva is empowered to rule this or have any propriety over anything else. Now, these are the proofs which are given about the oneness of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. And that means the Supreme Lord is one, and He is without a second. He has no competitor, nobody is equal to Him, or nobody is greater than Him. And in the beginning, He only existed. That means anything which came later, they are dependent on the Supreme Lord. Then the second is the individual souls are eternally different from the Supreme. This we have learned from various courses, from Bhagavad Gita and everywhere. Let us see one by one from all these Upanishads. First is Taittiriya Upanishad. One who understands the Supreme attains the Supreme. That means one has to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then one will attain his Supreme position. Then the second is a Brahman is limitless, eternal, and all-knowing. A person who knows that Brahman stays both in the spiritual sky and in the hearts of the creatures attains Brahman. He associates with the all-knowing Brahman. All his desires are fulfilled. This is also given in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And then the third is a wise man who meditates on the all-pervading Supreme Soul never laments. There is no lamentation for such a person. These are all the statements giving that the Supreme Person is supreme, and anybody who meditates on Him, who thinks about Him, who understands Him, he also attains the Supreme destination. And the fourth is the Supreme Lord is attained only by one who He Himself chooses. To such a person, He manifests His own form. This is given in the Kathopanishad. Basically, what He is saying, if somebody thinks by his own erudition, by his own efforts, he can reach the Supreme Lord, but that is not possible. It only can happen with the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Unless He is pleased, we are not going to attain Him. To attain Him, the only requirement is the Lord should want that. If the Lord chooses us, then we will be able to attain Him. Otherwise, with our own efforts, we will not be able to attain the Supreme Lord. And that is what is being given in the Upanishads and this Vedic literature. Therefore, these are what are the truths. And the third thing is the Lord's potency is inconceivable. Inconceivable means what? with our mind and intelligence is so limited, with our logic, we will not be able to understand this energy of the Supreme Lord. It is so different and so varied and so potent. Now let us see what is given in the Upanishads. Kathopanishad. Ordinary material logic cannot be used to disprove the truths taught by the Vedas. This Vedic literature, whatever is given, our material logic cannot disprove them under any circumstances. Even though there are very many people who try to argue that what is given are not correct, and some like we saw Shankaracharya and his followers, they misinterpret the same statements, but they cannot do this because we have seen in the later time the Vaishnava Acharyas, all the four sampradayas, they have disagreed with Shankaracharya, and they have proved otherwise. Now the next, what is given in the Mahabharata, the Purana, Manu Samhita, the Vedas with all their limbs and the science of the Vedic medicine are the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And medicine means Ayurveda. Everything what is given in the Vedic literature, they are words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they are His commands. And whatever is given, they are the commands, and we are supposed to follow them word by word without making any interpretation. As it is what Srila Prabhupada says, we have no power to interpret them because they have been given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and material logic cannot refute them. This is what is given in the Mahabharata. That's why there is no profit, there is no advantage in using our material logic to refute anything which is given in the Vedic literature. What are the Vedic literature? The Vedas, the Puranas, Itihasa, and in the Vedas, the Upanishads, they are part of it. These are the various things we should remember. Then the last thing, I do not know anything about the Supreme, neither do I think I know everything about the Supreme. All these things are not very correct. If somebody thinks that he knows everything about the Supreme Lord, he can know everything about the Supreme Lord. That is just not possible. And there is no requirement of thinking. We should take them as it is, what is given in the Vedic literature. Let us go on to the next slide. Now, here theme 2, Brajanatha is asking question 125. What evidence from scripture and logic show that love for the Supreme is the final goal of life? What we say, Krishna Prema or Priti of the Supreme Lord, why it is the best thing, and what is the evidence he is asking. Now, in answer, Babaji Mahasaya is saying the Supreme Person is the life of all that life. One who knows him is not eager to talk of other things. One who doesn't know, he is talking about so many things. But anybody who knows the Supreme Person, he will talk about the Supreme Person only. His Rupa, Leela, Dharma, his devotees, everything he will talk. He will not talk anything else like us, the material things. And such a person loves the Lord, always remembers the Lord's pastimes, and is active in the Lord's service. And he is the best of transcendentalists, Mundaka Upanishad. That means one who knows the Lord, who is trying to know the Lord, he is the best person because he is always thinking about the Lord, he is talking about the Lord, and he is not doing anything what is material. Then the next is, every living being loves others not to please them, but to please himself. This is given in the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. What is being given, what is being said? We all, the living beings, why we are loving others? Because it pleases us. That is what is being said. And the last thing which is given in the Taittiriya Aranyaka, who could live, who could breathe, if he find pleasure in his heart, living in the heart, Supreme Personality of Godhead gives pleasure to all living beings. We should remember that only the Supreme Lord can give pleasure. We, the material jivas, we cannot give any pleasure to anybody else. And that's why our job is to please the Supreme Lord. Basically, what we are talking, in other words, the most fortunate of those people who know the Supreme Lord Krishna, they will associate with Krishna actively in his all loving pastimes. Now, this sentiment of Rati is a symptom of love for Lord Krishna. It is explained in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Yajnavalkya is saying, Maitreyi, everyone is not dear to us because of their necessities. Rather, they are dear to us because of our own necessities. Because we are selfish, we want to find something and we see that thing. That is the thing. Then the second thing, what we saw in this slide, it is evident that Preeti or love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only provision of the Jiva. And from that, what we get Ananda or bliss. Now, this bliss is a synonym of Preeti or affection. And all living beings are in search of pleasure and bliss. Now, a mumukshu, he believes that liberation is the ultimate pleasure, and that's why he is made for liberation. Now, the sense enjoyers, the mumukshus, they believe that the objects of sense gratification are the ultimate pleasure. Now, the fruitive workers, the karmis, they believe that celestial pleasures are the ultimate bliss. But it is explained in Bhagavad Gita 9:20. Shine Punye Matyam Matyalokam Visanti. After the residents of the celestial planets have completed the results of their good karma, they have to take birth again on the mortal earthly planets. Now the karmis who desire sense gratification, they constantly transmigrate from one planet to the other in this way. Let us go on to the next slide. Now, here we'll be talking about Avideya Tattva, the entry of Brajanath's maternal uncle, Vijay Kumara. As I told you, Vijay Kumara will be with him till the end. And lot of discussions will be taking place. And he will also be asking a lot of questions to Raghunath Das Babaji. And let us know about Vijay Kumara. Vijay Kumara was especially learned in and widely preached Srimad Bhagavatam. He read Srimad Bhagavatam and preached also. Had attained great love for Chaitanya. He knew Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he loved him. And he had personally met Vrindavan Das Thakur. And now Vrindavan Das Thakur is an incarnation of Vyasadeva, who had predicted that soon all the places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes would be hidden, and only after 400 years would they be openly manifested. Furthermore, only a person who can see the spiritual nature of Mayapura may realize that Lord Gauranga's place of pastimes are none different from those of Lord Krishna in Vrindavana. As we know, a little over 500 years back, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared, but over a period of time, everything got away from the sight of the common people, and they disappeared. Rather, they remained hidden. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur came a little over 100 years back, he only had manifested the various places in Mayapur Dharma. That is what the sayings of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And who is Vrindavan Thakur, Vrindavan Das Thakur, as you know, his mother was Narayani Devi, and Narayani Devi was personally blessed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If we read Chaitanya Bhagavata and Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is given. And she was the niece of Srivas Acharya, Srivas Pandita, his elder brother's daughter. And she was a direct follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Vrindavan Das' father, Vaikuntanath Vipra, was from Sylhet district in Bangladesh, presently Bangladesh. However, it is said that his father died before even he was born. So his mother moved to the house of Srivas Pandita. Now, this is the greatness of Srivas Vrindavan Das Thakur. And if you have ever time, then you should read Chaitanya Bhagavata to know about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, let us see the second point. As he was on his way to Mayapur, that is Vijay Kumara, Sri Vijay Kumara visited Sri Brajanatha in Billo Puskarini, where he was staying, which was within a mile from Sri Mayapur Dharma. And as Vijay Kumara embraced his nephew, Brajanatha was at once offered Dandavat obeisances to his uncle. The nephew highly recommended his uncle to meet Raghunath Das Babaji. They met and he recommended that both of them they should go to Raghunath Das Babaji, because Brajanath had been going earlier to Raghunath Das Babaji, and we know he asked so many questions and he was answering them. And now the uncle was unaware of the fact that his nephew had been so dramatically changed from being a avid practitioner of Nyaya Shastra to an ardent student of Vedanta. Now, the nephew highly recommended his uncle to meet Raghunath Das Babaji. To see such a deep faith in the Vaishnava, the uncle was pleasantly surprised. He was very much surprised to see such a great change in him. But as we observe, he was still remembering the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord, and he was transforming into a devotee. And after this conversation, both of them together left for Sri Mayapur. And as the nephew introduced his uncle to the saintly Babaji, the same kind of spiritual inquiry began as that had begun between Brajanath and Babaji Mahasaya. And then they went there, and then again the question answer session started. Let us see, go to the next slide, what questions they will be asking and what answers Babaji Mahasaya is giving. Now, here in this slide, we will see Vijay Kumara will be asking three questions in this slide. And the first question he asked was, what is the real goal and need of all living entities? You see, this question is asked by all the great devotees. We see this in Srimad Bhagavatam also. The 88,000 rishis who are represented by Saunak Rishi, they asked the same question from Sutta Goswami also. Now, to this answer, Babaji Mahasaya is answering pure devotional service, which is free from jnana and karma, is both the final goal of life and the means to attain it. In very great detail, we will see subsequently. This is what he is saying, pure devotional service, not mixed with jnana or karma. Now, in the beginning stage, it is sadhana bhakti, and in its perfectional stage, it is prema bhakti. It starts with sadhana bhakti, like what we all are doing. This is sadhana bhakti, and the ultimate stage is prema bhakti. But there is an intermediate stage also that we will learn. Now, the second question he asked was, what different qualities does devotional service possess? Now, to this answer, Babaji Mahasaya says, he quotes the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, a deep analysis of the Anya Vilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyana Krishnanusilanam Bhakti Ruttama. This verse with a heavy emphasis on Jnana Karmadi Anavritam and Anukulyana Krishnanusilanam. Now, devotee will not attain pure, unalloyed devotional service unless and until Lord Krishna's Swarupa Sakti becomes manifested. Unless Lord Krishna himself becomes pleased. That means our only aim is to please Krishna's senses, not our own senses. And at the sadhana bhakti stage, the devotional service is gross and unrefined. But at the attainment of prema bhakti stage, the devotional service is freed from connection with the material world. There is no connection of with the material world. Like if you remember what happened to the gopis or the residents of Vrindavana, they forgot everything about this material world. They were not doing anything, including their own maintenance. Everything was being provided by the Supreme Lord because they did everything for the Supreme Lord to make him happy, think about him. They were thinking nothing but Krishna 24 hours in a day. And that is what is the greatness of a devotee. And also the devotional service is pure when it is freed from jnana, karma, and when it is favorable and directed to the Supreme Lord. That means here basically two things are emphasized. It has to be free from jnana and karma. Jnana Mishra Bhakti or Karma Mishra Bhakti, they are not pure Bhakti. And Anukulyana Krishnanusilanam, remembering favorably or doing things favorably. Like if you see, even Kansa was also remembering Krishna, Shishupal was also remembering Krishna, and remembering 24 hours in a day. There was no time when they were not thinking about Krishna, but that is not Krishna consciousness because that was not Anukulyana, that was Pratikulyana, that was opposed to Krishna. They were always thinking inimically about Krishna. Okay, next we'll see question 3. What specific characteristics of pure devotional service? Now, the various characteristics are the kleshagni or immediate freedom from all kinds of material distress. In brief, after giving these answers to the question 2, I have answered. Question 3, I am answering now. And thereafter, we'll see a little more about this. These 6 things, what is given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, kleshagni or immediate freedom from all kinds of material distress. Then the Subhada or the beginning of all auspiciousness. Then Sandrananda Visheshatma or transcendental pleasure is experienced by the devotee. Sudurlabha, it is rarely achieved. Hardly anybody achieves this. It is so rare. And then 5th is moksha laghutakrit, means it derides even the conception of liberation. This is the reason why the devotees that do not want liberation at all. And last is Sri Krishna Karsini, the only means to attract Krishna. To Radharani employs this principle to attract Krishna. Let us see this in slightly greater detail. First, we spoke about the Anya Vilasita Sunyan, that is basically the Swarupa Lakshana. But now you can say Swarupa Lakshana and Tatastha Lakshana both. Now, Uttama Bhakti or pure devotional service is the cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the benefit of Krishna, or in other words, the uninterrupted flow of service to Lord Krishna performed through the endeavors of body, mind, and speech, and through the expression of various spiritual sentiments, or you can say bhavas. It is not covered by jnana, knowledge of Nirvishesha Brahma, aimed at impersonal liberation, and the karma misra bhakti, reward seeking activity, yoga, ashtanga yoga, or austerities, and it is completely free from all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Krishna. Now, this clearly describes the Swarupa Lakshana, that is the intrinsic characteristics, and the extrinsic symptoms also, Tatastha Lakshana of Bhakti. The word Uttama Bhakti refers to pure devotional service, and devotional service mixed with fruitive activities, and devotional service mixed with speculative knowledge, they are not pure devotional service. And the aim of devotional service mixed with fruitive activity is actually sense gratification. And the aim of devotional service mixed with speculative knowledge is liberation. That is what the jnanis they want. Only such devotional service which is free from any trace of desire for fruitive results or liberation is Uttama Bhakti. Therefore, our aim should be to attain Uttama Bhakti only. The fruit of Uttama Bhakti is Prema only. Thus, this Swarupa Lakshana Bhakti is endeavors favorable to Krishna, Krishnanusilanam, performed with body, mind, and speech, and loving attitude of the mind. And such endeavors and the spiritual sentiments are both favorable, anukulya, and constantly they are dynamic in nature. And the mercy of Lord Krishna and his devotees, this is possible. Then finally, we will be able to see realize the Swarupa Lakshana, the Swarupa, the form of Lord Krishna. And we spoke about the 6 things. Klesagni, she destroys all kinds of distress. And Subhada is, she rewards all kinds of fortune which is possible without even the devotee asking. And Moksha Laguta Krete, she makes the pleasure of impersonal liberation appear laguta or insignificant. It is so insignificant that liberation which is wanted, which is longed for by the jnanis, that is rejected outrightly by the devotee. He does not want it, but still the Lord gives him. And then it is Sudurlava, that means it is rarely achieved. Not that anybody and everybody who is in the path of Krishna consciousness can achieve it. It is very difficult to achieve. Then Sundrananda Vishasatma, her nature is imbued with the most intense and superlative pleasure. And this is far different from the material pleasure what we experience in various things. That's why it is very difficult or rather impossible to describe what is this superlative transcendental pleasure. And the last one is Sri Krishna Akarshani. See, the soul means to attract Krishna. And that is why even though Krishna is so attractive, he is attracted toward Radharani because she also employs the same technique. Okay, let us go on to the next slide. Okay. And now is the time for 5 minutes break. Let us have a 5 minutes break and we'll meet after 5 minutes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I was wondering,
Yes, yes.
maybe it's too much, but I wanted to add few things what we did cover in our meeting yesterday. If possible, maybe about 15-20 minutes, if you can stay over, especially you, Nitya Sakhi Mataji, and whoever is taking part in this, just I wanted to add some few things, couple things, 2-3 things.
Yes, 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 Prabhuji.
If possible, I don't know, because it's
Yes,
Sunday
yes,
there.
yes.
It's
Yes,
Sunday
yes.
there. If you're in India, it is Sunday, right?
Yes, yes, we will do that. We will have time. Actually, there is not very much to be covered now. I may
Yeah.
finish little 5 minutes before time, and we will
Okay.
have time, Prabhuji.
If it's okay with others, let me make sure that,
Yes, 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 Prabhuji.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, let us go to the next slide and start off from where we left before the break. Yes. Now, Vijay Kumar, you will be asking his fourth question. Now, the fourth question he is asking is, how does pure devotional service bring immediate relief from all kinds of material distress? Now, to this answer, to his answer, what Babaji Mahasaya is saying, there are three causes for material suffering, material distress. What are these papa or sins? Papa bija or the seeds of the sins, because the seeds they come up in some time frame. Initially they are not active, they are active after some time. And the third reason is avidya, ignorance. Let us study them in slightly greater detail. First, talk about the papa or the sins. Sins we commit or we have committed in our multitude of millions of lifetimes before. Now the sins are of three types: pataka or the sins, atipataka or the greatest sins, mahapataka or the great sins. These are the various gradations of the sins, and we are distressed by these sins. And what about the Papa Bija or the seeds of sins? The seeds of desire in the heart no longer remains once the pure devotional service appears there. That means we are distressed by the Papa Bija, but when we take recourse to this devotional service, when we come in the path of Krishna consciousness, when we chant the name of the Lord, we associate with the devotees, we study Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we follow the regulative principles, we do deity service, all these things, if we do sincerely, then even the Papa Bija or the seeds of the sins, they will also get totally burnt or destroyed. Then the third is avidya or ignorance. The individual soul's illusions are about his true identity. The true identity is he is a devotee of Krishna, he is a servant of Krishna. But what is the false identity? He thinks in terms of I and mine. Now this is known as avidya. Now with the performance of pure devotional service, these illusions no longer remains and he regains his remembrance of being the Lord's eternal servant. When he comes into the path of devotional service, then his illusions they go away and he remembers that he is the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord and nothing belongs to his or this material world is not his and the body is not his. That's what happens because of devotional service. And with the entrance of devotional service in the heart, the sins, the seeds of the sins, and the ignorance, everything all perish. And as a result, material distress no longer experienced, and immediate sigh of relief is experienced by the Jiva. Now I will describe this again in little different words so that it remains in the mind. As I said, there are three kinds of sins. This is given in the slide. Sin, the Papa itself, the Papa Bija, and the ignorance or avidya. Now, sinful activity is classified as Pataka, Mahapataka, and Atipataka. All these are considered Papa. And people in those whose hearts Suddha Bhakti has manifested, they are naturally not inclined to become involved in sinful activities, this Papa. And the desire to commit sins, which is called Papa Bija, cannot remain in the heart of a devotee ever. And avidya means ignorance of one's spiritual identity. And when Suddha Bhakti first dawns within the heart, the Jiva understands very clearly that I am the servant of Krishna, and ignorance disappears altogether. This means that Bhakti Devi, the goddess of Bhakti, spreads her effulgence. Then what happens? The darkness of Papa Bija, and Avidya, they are expelled totally from the heart. And on the auspicious arrival of Bhakti, all sorts of distress they go away. And that is why Bhakti is Klesagni. Then let us see what is the next question of Vijay Kumara. Now Vijay Kumara is asking, how pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness, Subhada. Now, this will be discussed in three parts. The word auspiciousness, what do we understand by auspiciousness? Something is auspicious means love for all living entities. That means that a devotee, he starts loving all living entities because he sees the Lord in all of them. And all virtues, all the great qualities, good qualities which are in the demigods and others, they percolate into the devotee. That's what is the meaning of auspiciousness. And the third is all kinds of happiness. All kinds means both material happiness and spiritual happiness. Everything he gets. He does not have to hanker for anything. Everything is automatically provided to him. And that's why it is auspicious. If you remember in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Srivas Pandita, Srivas Pandita was not working anywhere, he was not earning anything. He was only doing devotional service, singing and dancing for Gaur Kishore all the time. But everything was being provided by the Supreme Lord. He didn't have to ask. The Brajavasis, they didn't have to do anything. Everything was provided to them by the Supreme Lord. And this is what is auspiciousness. And also, when you read the 10th canto, first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, you come to know when Lord Krishna appeared in Braja, and just before even appearing, all auspiciousness appeared in Braja, and everybody was full of, every house was full of wealth. Nobody came and gave to them, but it was automatically filled. That means all kinds of happiness will be achieved by a person who practices devotional service. And now the next part is the four virtues of such a pure devotee. I said all virtues, but let us see the four most prominent virtues which are found in a devotee. Humility. He is most humble, humbler than a blade of grass. Mercy. He is merciful. Even if somebody is inimical toward him, but still then he is merciful. And merciful to everybody, not only the human beings, but all others, animals, insects, everybody. Then pridelessness. He achieves everything, but he does not boast about them. There is no pride in him. The only pride in him is he is a servant of Krishna. That is only thing. Then honoring everyone. He honors everyone without expecting any honor for himself. And then the devotee does not desire any of these kinds of happiness, as none of these can even approach the eternal bliss attained by engaging in pure devotional service. What are these? The derivatives of all kinds of happiness in the material sense. The material happiness, what we call happiness. And suppose we see a movie or something in the TV, we say we are very, very happy. We are all happiness has come to us. Or we eat something which is palatable to our tongue, to us. We think these are various material things. You have a good house, you have a good vehicle, like this. There are so many things, but these are all material in nature. The devotees do not desire for any of these things. Then impersonal liberation, which the jnanis they want to merge with the Supreme Lord. That is not wanted by the devotees. All yogic perfections and the 8 yogic perfections by the yogis, that is not devotional service. Then sense gratification, that is satisfying own senses, that is not happiness at all. That's why they are discarded by the Supreme Lord, by everybody, all the devotees. Then next, we'll see the Babaji answers Vijay Kumar's questions 6 to 11 and Brajanatha's question 1 to 26. We will see this in 2 slides. Well, Vijay Kumar's question number 6. Why is the pure devotee derived even the conception of impersonal liberation? Now, why the happiness experience from pleasing the Lord far outweighs the one from material piety, material sense gratification, and impersonal liberation, as these become totally insignificant. In the face of devotional service, all these things are totally insignificant. I'll discuss them in different words also slightly later, but these are given in very, very simple words. and you must be understanding. Then question 7 is, why is pure devotional service derived rarely achieved? Now, why this is said that it is rarely achieved, very few people can achieve, because Lord Hari is not pleased by those who aim for material sense gratification or impersonal liberation. The Lord is not gratified, is not pleased. To please Him, one has to engage himself in devotional service only. That is what he is looking for. And the question 8 is, how pure devotional service automatically put one in transcendental pleasure? Now the answer is, all the available material pleasures, impersonal liberation, they are like a drop of an ocean of bliss one experiences in pleasing the Lord with pure devotional service. If the Supreme Lord is pleased, then the bliss one experiences is far higher than any of the sense pleasures or impersonal liberation. Now, question 9 is, how does pure devotional service attract Krishna? Now, when devotional service appears in the heart, Lord Krishna, who is controlled by love, becomes attracted to enter the heart along with all his confidential associates. By no other way can he be brought under control. Now, here we saw that even if there is little love for the Supreme Lord, Bhagavat Arati, which has manifested in one's heart, then dharma, artha, kama, moksha, everything then naturally appear insignificant. And that is the reason why the devotee does not want them. And bhakti will remain elusive so long as one performs devotional service improperly. And even if one engages in millions of different spiritual practices, sadhanas, still then one will not get that thing. And apart from that, Bhakti Devi satisfies the majority of people with only impersonal liberation. She does not give bhakti unless she sees that the practitioner is highly qualified. And it is for those two reasons that bhakti is rarely achieved. The sadhana of cultivating jnana definitely leads to liberation in the form of merging into the non-dual Brahma, which is the very form of knowledge. But it is also easy to get material sense gratification by performing pious deeds like yajna and other such activities. However, if one does not practice bhakti, one cannot achieve pure devotional service or bhakti to Sri Hari, even by performing millions of spiritual practices. Bhakti is eternal spiritual happiness, and that is why the performance of bhakti places one in the ocean of bliss. And if one combines all the different types of worldly material pleasure, adds the pleasure of merging into Brahma, which is the negation of this material world, and multiplies with all tens of millions of times, the resultant pleasure still cannot compare to a single drop of the ocean of bliss of devotional service. And material pleasures are utterly trivial in nature, and the pleasure that appears by negating material pleasure, that is mukti, is very, very dry. Both these pleasures are different in nature from the bliss in the spiritual world. And that's why a devotee is the greatest person. Then let us see what is the question of Brajanatha. His question number 126. Is there a stage in between sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti? Yes, there is a stage of bhava bhakti between sadhana bhakti, and that is devotional service and practice. In between there is bhava bhakti or devotional service in ecstasy, and finally the prema bhakti or devotional service in pure devotional service, pure love of God. Then the 11th question of Vijay Kumara, why is material logic useless in understanding spiritual pleasure? We have seen so many examples given in the Vedic literature, how our material logic cannot enter into the transcendental thing. Now, given in the Kathopanishad, supreme cannot be understood by material logic. This is very, very clear. This second is given in Vedanta Sutra. The transcendental topics cannot be understood by arguments of logic given by Vyasadeva. And the 10th question of Vijay Kumara, if devotional service is as you described, then why don't all scriptural scholars carefully engage in it? Now, to this answer, Babaji Mahasaya is giving, human intelligence and material logic are so vastly limited, relative understanding Krishna's devotional service, which are far beyond the boundary of the material world. On the other hand, a person who, because of past pious deeds, not material, now has a single drop of attraction for the Lord, can easily understand devotional service. See the greatness of devotional service. If one has just got attracted to the Supreme Lord, then he will start achieving everything. Now, here what we have seen, the various characteristics of sadhana bhakti we have seen, and we have seen how bhakti is the greatest thing a person should, a devotee should practice, because that gives all perfection, and he will get not only all his material desires will be fulfilled, but his transcendental desires will also be fulfilled. He will get everything, anything and everything, even without asking. But in other ways, other paths, say in karma or jnana or ashtanga yoga, he will not get these things, but he can also reach the perfection, but that will take a very, very long time, and it is troublesome, and there are chances that he will fall down also. But there is no such thing in devotional service. Suppose if we discontinue what devotional service we are practicing, then we will start from where we left in this life. There is no loss at all. That's why devotional service is greatest, and we should practice devotional service with all our efforts. Hare Krishna, I have come to the end of lesson 26. Now the session is open for question and answers, and also comments. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances of glories to Prabhupada. Thank you very much for a wonderful class. My question or comment, like, I think it's a question basically. On the slide 9, the Papa, Bija, Papa, and ignorance, those were also discussed in the Nectar of Devotion by Srila Rupa Goswami. It also says in that once somebody is situated in pure devotional service, then the ignorance is also goes off, and the Papa Bija and everything goes off. But until then, we still are having the proclivities to perform the Papa, right? Like the proclivities is always there, even the Papa Bija goes off, the Papa goes off. The proclivity or the nature of one's soul, of doing certain things in a wrong way, that proclivity still stays until they are completely situated in pure devotional service. Is that correct, Prabhuji? Is that my understanding correct?
Yes, that is very correct. Because we may think we are also practicing devotional service. Why there are so many things are there? Because we have not perfected. We have it has not reached the mature stage. We have just started, and this it is guaranteed that devotional service will burn all the seeds. That is the bija, the seeds of sins. They will be burned. And avidya, this will also go with devotional service, but at a mature stage. That means after some time, all the things will go. They are still going. We can say they are still going. We are in the beginning stage only. I'll request Charu Prabhuji to say something. Prabhuji, mic is off.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji, Lalita Priya Mataji, here Babaji does not go in great details actually, but in Nectar of Devotion, we learn in great detail the karma, the papas, there are prarabdha karma and aprarabdha karma, right? Prarabdha karma means that we are already suffering the result of our papa karma that we did before. It is fructified, whereas the aprarabdha karma, the papa is performed, but this punishment is not yet come through. There is still remain in a dormant stage that we will suffer either in this life later or in subsequent lives. So this aprarabdha karma, even though it's not fructified, it is still expressed in an indirect way. That is by this kutam, that is called proclivity that you are talking about, the tendency. So a thief who is not yet stealing something, but he developed certain characteristics that he's going to do it if opportunity presented to him, like if some right kind of situation develops, then he will do that. So he's going to speak lies, he's going to cheat, that kind of thing, that is considered as kutam. Means he has a tendency, inclination that is already expressed of the aprarabdha karma. And then there is a bijam, the seed, just like this elephant, he will take a bath in the river, but immediately will come on the bank and it will still rolling around in the sand, will get dirty. Just like the Christians go to the church and in front of the father, the priest, he will actually admit that this is what I'm doing in confessing, what's called confession, right? But even after confession is done and everything, he will again repeat the same thing again and again, same sinful reaction, sinful actions, because that bijam is still there in the heart that keep on germinating and going to create. So the bijam also has to be removed, and of course, the ultimate root cause is the avidya. Avidya of what? Ignorance of what? Because of our forgetfulness of Krishna. There is the root cause of all these things happening there. So all these four, the prarabdha, aprarabdha karma, kutam, bijam, and then avidya, all this is going to be nullified when we practice devotional service by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So even kutam is also taken care of because the bijam is also removed. Because the bijam is there, from that the kutam is comes, So Mataji, I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Because oftentimes we see that, us plus other devotees have this tendency, even though they have entered into the devotional mode, but struggling with that basic proclivities and
because
tendencies.
The bhakti is still not mature, We are still in imperfectional stage. Sadhana bhakti is just a practicing. We are still on a practicing stage. That's the reason. When you come to bhava bhakti level, also remember we learned in the Madhurya Kadambini, all the anarthas, they are going to be slowly removed. But at much later stage, when we mature, all the asakti stage and all the stages, they have to pass through that, So you cannot expect a newly practicing devotee will go away everything. It's not going to go away like that, But he is going to feel, remember, as soon as when we do bhakti process, chanting Hare Krishna and all this thing, we feel great actually within our heart that everyone must have experienced that thing. Immediately we feel fed, even though we are not yet perfection. Just at the sadhana stage, we are beginning to experience that auspiciousness, and that relief from the clashes, the suffering and everything, as long as we keep on chanting. But when we stop chanting, when give up devotional service and again get back to the material world, then again the same cycle again begins. So
Yes.
the reason is that we have to constantly keep at it, because Maya is just waiting for a slight break, even a slight minutest break. We take that, Maya is again going to catch us, because the three modes of material nature are constantly working as long as we have this material body. So that we have to watch out that actually.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank
So
you
the
so much.
only way we can do is by bhakti process, chanting the holy name, hearing about Krishna in sadhu sangha. Then only then we are protected actually. Sadhu sangha is the lifeline. At every step of this ninefold Navada Bhakti, sadhu sangha always has to be there, because sadhu sangha is the one who is going to be our shield, that's going to protect us. If we drop the shield, then we become vulnerable. Immediately Maya can catch us. Horrible.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, so wonderful class. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, matlab, once logic and bhakti begins, तो ब्रजनाथ जी को भी ऐसा ही हुआ, जब उनका लॉजिक एंड होगा तो भक्ति शुरू होगा, ऐसा है प्रभु जी?
Very good question, Mataji. Very good question. Let's Sharad Prabhuji answer that.
What you were asking, logic and
नहीं, मतलब जब लॉजिक खत्म हो जाएगा सबके दिमाग में से, सब जितना भी लॉजिक है सब निकल जाएगा, और तो फिर भक्ति begins at the same time.
Brajanath was originally a great logician, right? He used to eat, breathe, sleep logic. And he was so engrossed in that, when he heard there is a Nimai Pandita in Navadvipa, he was the greatest logician, okay? So he got interested. He wanted to meet Nimai Pandita, and learn. And then he studied all the books of Nimai Pandita. And then suddenly he was completely changed. The whole logic he gave up, and he became a great devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the past lingering aspects of the logician spirit was there within him, and that keeps on bubbling up when he asks questions to Babaji. That you notice that throughout that he is asking from that kind of that logician background that he had. He constantly asked that, and that impersonal liberation, that kind of thing is there. Plus, he was a worshipper of Durga Devi. So all these things keep on coming to them, and of course, gradually he's changing tremendously, and he's becoming a Vaishnava. Very similar to what happened to Lahiri Mahasaya. We saw that Kalidas Lahiri Mahasaya, he also came from the same school, and how he would completely change, so much so that Babaji and not Babaji, this Babaji, but the original Babaji, Premdas Babaji, was so impressed by him, and he actually gave him initiation on that. Hare Krishna.
thank you, Prabhuji. That's why this logic, it cannot achieve anything. And how Nimai Pandita used to use logic. Suppose somebody said something, he will prove it with so many proofs that is wrong. Thereafter, what he has said, again he will prove that is wrong. Like this, he will keep on going. That means at the end, somebody will not come to know which is right, which is wrong. That means the logic does not lead to a correct conclusion. That's why we have to accept that logic has no place in transcendental service, transcendental literature, and only faith in the Supreme Lord. Any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very
Hare
nice nicely explained. My question is, what is the difference between pop and pop bees pop?
Papa means the sins which are there. There also
Yes.
categories which it has not been described here because in very short, like what Prabhuji was saying, all the sins we have committed, they are somewhere. And out of that, something has been allotted in our present life. Now that is there, and we have to we have to have that. We have to feel the reaction of that. That is there. And then Papa Bija means it is latent in the heart. It will come up after some time, like a bija, a seed. You plant the plant will not come up immediately. It will take some time after you water. This Papa Bijam also, which is in the heart, it will grow up in some time. If it is there, certainly this plant will come up in some time frame. But it is not like prarabdha or sanchit papa. Sanchit papa means whatever, everything which is lying, still lying in our account. But what the gist is, if we practice devotional service, then this prarabdha, this sanchit karma, this papa bijam, kutam, everything will get destroyed, but it takes time. We have to reach the mature stage, but generally you have those who are in devotional service, they should be experiencing that the pangs of those papam or the sins, they are much less now. That means they are going away. So yes, Chara Prabhuji, please.
बहन जी आपने बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन किया है, नो प्रॉब्लम क्या है, मैंने कहा बताया ना आपको, मैं हिंदी में बोल रहा हूँ, लोग समझ नहीं पाएंगे फिर मुश्किल में, तो इंग्लिश थोड़ा बोलना पड़ेगा क्योंकि सब लोग नहीं पाए समझ पाएंगे ना, सब लोग समझते हैं हिंदी समझते हैं सब लोग,
आप इंग्लिश में बोल दीजिएगा जो सबको कन्वीनियंट हो भाई जी।
अच्छा, तो कहने का मतलब क्या, मतलब व्हाट इज द रीजन इज दैट आई टोल्ड यू द रूट कॉज ऑफ ऑल दिस थिंग is the avidya, the forgetfulness of Krishna, because that takes a long time, you know, unless and until we revive our Krishna consciousness, our remembrance of Krishna, then all this thing is going to remain dead. It is going to take a long time. So this removal of this ignorance, remembrance of Krishna, there is the one takes some time. The maturity of devotional service, more and more you need to be involved, engaged, and more you need to detach from material pursuits, and simultaneously you have to reattach to Krishna consciousness activities. Then only this avidya, this ignorance of Krishna, that is going to remove that, and Krishna is going to help us. More and more we chant Hare Krishna, more and more we sadhu sangha, associate with saintly personalities, and they constantly talk. Sadhus, saintly people, they always talk nothing but Krishna all the time. They give very, very interesting, very, very stimulating stories, pastimes of Krishna, and then he got very much inquisitive about that. The reason you become inquisitive, when you become inquisitive, there is the beginning phase that you are going to remember Krishna. So that's the reason why I encourage all of you. Why? Keep asking questions. Look at Vrajnath, Sri Vrajnath, and this Vijay Kumara. How many questions they keep on asking? From every answer they get, from answer more question develops. So really, this is what we need to learn about that. How to ask questions, how to develop, how to become inquisitive. And that is the primary characteristic, primary qualification of being a scientist. Scientists always are very, very inquisitive, And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to address yesterday's little short meetings we had. And I thought more about it, and why I kept on emphasizing that we need to work Krishna consciousness for many, many hours. More and more we engage ourselves, then we become inquisitive. So we have to dive in that. Just like एक समुद्र में हम जब डाइव करते हैं, जितना डीपली डाइव करेंगे, then वो मोती निकाल पाएंगे. These pearls, you know, unless until you dive deep enough, you engrossed yourself, you forget. See, when I do my PowerPoints, when I work, I become totally oblivious. I don't even remember what's going on around me. 6 hours, 8 hours, forget lunch. Other day that I forget to even, or 18, 19, 20 hours past that. I just nothing. I was conscious about that. That particular day, Sharad Prabhuji's class was there, and I totally forgot about his class also. You know, I was so engrossed because diving in that, more and more new ideas develop, and that was very, very important element of if you really want to solve how to come up with themes and all these things, how to understand. Look at the when you look at the take up my slide, and then go to the actual book chapters. It will be very, very difficult to understand. And how I extract these things, that is because of the long, long hours I put in. I dive my mind in it actually, and the new ideas develop when you solve this, crossword puzzles, Sudoku. This is my daily sadhana actually, you know, to sharpen my intelligence. You know, every day I do that, and that really solving the puzzle may not. The solution doesn't come right away. You really have to think about it, involve yourself, completely immersed in it. That's where you're going to get it. So remembering Krishna also is like that exactly. You really have to immerse yourself in his different pastimes. More and more questions should arise in your mind, your heart, everything, and then ask questions. You know, Haribol.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charu. Very nicely. Very nicely explained. Thank you, Shri Prabhuji. Thank you, Charu.
Any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Samantha Mataji, Samantha Mataji, I just saw her.
Mamaji, how are you?
She's there.
Yes, she's there today.
Before the time elapsed, I just want to publicly apologize to Samantha Mataji. I owe her a deep, deep apology. You know, other day, a week before, she asked a question actually, and I'm trying to encourage everyone to ask questions. And it was I misspoke, and I think that very difficult philosophy. Sharad Prabhu was explaining that, and at the end she asked to please go again and explain. Already it was so complex philosophy, you know, and the time was running out. Final few minutes were remaining, so that's where I wanted to make a little joke about it, a little bit of humor about it. But humor should be done not at the expense of someone else. That I realized later when the class was over, and I was feeling so bad about it. You know, such a wonderful, wonderful Vaishnavi, Samantha Mataji is there, and I committed such a horrible, horrible offense at her lotus feet. So Mataji, please, you find in your heart, please forgive me. I'm publicly apologizing for that.
No, Prabhuji, please don't listen, and please accept my humble obeisance. Please don't say all this. Prabhuji, thank you for the class. I have this question has been bothering me since a very long time.
I know you're not feeling well, so don't worry about take rest.
Yeah. Prabhuji, like how we ended the class today with the devotional, the power of devotional service, that it gives devotee everything that he desires, be it material or all his needs are being taken care of. So, but being humans, we do have desires, and even when, if we are walking on the devotional path, we do get desires sometimes. And in case of Dhruva Maharaj, he started devotional service for his kingdom. And then when he actually saw God, he no more had that desire. But God said, no, because you had this desire, it has to be fulfilled. Now, Dhruva Maharaj is was a was a person of a very high caliber and from a different yuga altogether. We being Kalyug people, we are very weaker in our character and we are not as strong as compared to such personalities. So, how will be our desires taken? Will we, because having desires definitely will take us far away from our goals. So, how will that impact us, given our weakness, given that we are from a Kalyuga Yuga? So, how do we understand that? Please, guys.
Well, you are
Saraswati, could you answer, because I could hardly understand her.
what she is asking about the desires, but the answer is we cannot reach a stage where we have no desires, and there is no requirement of discarding this. Only thing we have to do is we have to transform our desires into transcendental desires. So desires about Krishna, desires for the supreme abode, about him and all that. We should not, we should try to discard the material desires and transcend or transform into the spiritual desires. Then only that is what is called discarding all the material, all desires. We cannot be desire free at any stage. That is what my understanding. Now I will request Charu Prabhuji to elaborate.
Yeah, absolutely correct. That's exactly. See, Prabhupada used to say that we are not dead rock, we are living beings. So desires will always be there, no matter how advanced you are. But more and more devotees, those who are very, very advanced, they have spiritual desires. They convert that desires, you know. So we have to also do the same thing, especially in the sadhana bhakti stage. We have constant struggle between our material desires and our spiritual desires. So the trick is, the art is that how to convert that, you know, that desire into spiritual desires, like that, you know, sense gratification, everything, you do it for Krishna, you know, that's one reason how we could do that. Everything that we have, slowly convert into that. That is the trick actually. But it is easier said than done. It takes long years and years of experience. And that's the reason I found personally in my life, my own life, is to always keep engaged in Krishna, working for Krishna and his devotees. That's what I'm doing. Now, literally 18-20 hours of a day, my time is being spent on that only. So during that time, there is nothing I can think of anything else, you know. So that is the trick to do that. Keep more and more engaging yourself and always keep associating with the devotees, you know, more and more time with them. Unlike you spend time with asata sangha, those who are not like-minded people, who are worldly-minded people, when you associate with them, again, you are going back to the material world, you know. So keep away asata sangha and have sat sangha. That is the way to achieve. And these classes we are doing at least, you know, thrice a week. During that time, you may have noticed that while you're attending, while you're listening to these classes and interactively asking questions, during that time, nothing else enters in the mind. Everything is about all Krishna and his devotees. That is a trick. That is the way to do it, you know. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Any other question?
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, एक बात को शेयर करना था, मैं कर सकती हूँ?
हाँ प्लीज माता जी, आपको पूछने की क्या जरूरत है? ये तो
नहीं प्रभु जी,
इसीलिए
मैंने
तो हम लोग आए
गौरांगा
यहाँ।
प्रभु जी का लेक्चर सुना था अभी 2 दिन पहले, बहुत ही अच्छा
हाँ
था।
जी।
तो उनमें से मैंने नोट डाउन किया है थोड़ा। तो उनमें उन्होंने बताया कि काम, क्रोध और लोभ को अगर दूर करना है तो उसको बहुत ही सिंपल वे है, तो हम कर सकते हैं, नाम रुचि हमारी बढ़ाए, वैष्णव सेवा बढ़ाए और जीव दया करे। तो ये 3 करने से हमारे काम, क्रोध और लोभ बहुत ही आसानी से दूर हो जाते हैं। तो मुझे बहुत ही अच्छा, मैंने लिख के रखा था, तो मैंने सोचा कि आपको लोगों से शेयर करूं।
बहुत अच्छा किया माता जी।
Thank you,
आपकी
Prabhuji.
अब जब ये प्रश्न पूछा है आपने तो मुझे वर्ष याद आ गया। मैं कितनी बार रिपीट करता हूँ वर्ष को। वो लिखा है श्रीमद् भागवतम फर्स्ट कैंटो सेकंड चैप्टर वर्सेस 17 to 21. In one of the verses says that first begin with Shrumatam Swakata Krishna Pune Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Bhadrani. वो जो वर्ष में भगवान हमारे हृदय में बसते हैं परमात्मा के रूप में, तो परमात्मा हमारे हृदय की जो मिरर है उसको पॉलिश करते हैं, डर्ट निकाल देते हैं. And why is that dirt? Is because of tada rajas tamo kam bhav lobha adayasche chet etir anaviddam sitam satve prasidati. Because this lower modes, rajoguna and tamoguna, whose outer manifestation is kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, matsara, the 6 enemies of the mind. So he removes the root cause of that, the mode of passion and ignorance, rajoguna and tamoguna. In that place he establishes sattva guna, and sattvam sanjayate jnanam sattvam yad brahma darshanam, and evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti prayojita. Exactly at that point pure bhakti starts in our heart, and when pure bhakti starts, bhagavad tattva vijnanam, the science of Krishna, develops in your heart, all because of starting simply hearing about Krishna in association with other devotees. So that is the way to remove the influence of kama, krodha, mada, lobha, matsara. Simply hearing about Krishna, and Krishna himself takes care of that. And then we come to pure bhakti stage, and then science of Krishna develops. When science of Krishna develops, then what happens? Bityate hriday grantis, chindyate sarva samshaya, kshiyante chasya karmani, drasht evatmani ishvare. So all the misgivings, doubts, everything is removed. All the karmic bondage is dissolved. And the tight knot between matter and spirit, we are spirit soul, but we have this tremendous material enjoyment propensity is there. That tight knot that we cannot untie ourselves, Krishna removes that tight knot, solves it, makes pieces of it, and then we become drasht evatmanishvare. We remember who we are. We are spirit soul. We are not this body, and we are meant to serve the Supreme Lord and his devotees. So all this thing began from simply hearing about Krishna. So those 5 verses are so logically explained that. So because you asked the question about kama, krodha, mada, lobha, matsara, is because of the rajoguna and tamoguna. Those are the one who preventing us to come to bhakti platform. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Any other
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Any other question? If we don't have any other question, then we'll conclude today's class with the Nrsimha prayers by.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, one more point.
Okay.
प्रभुजी पूरे स्लाइड में मुझे ये बहुत ही अच्छी लगी लाइन, एवरी लिविंग बीइंग लव्स अदर नॉट टू प्लीज देम बट टू प्लीज हिमसेल्फ. वो बहुत ही पावरफुल लाइन है प्रभु जी, क्योंकि अभी के जो करंट सिचुएशन है उसमें यही चलता है. मतलब भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर ने जब भी लिखा होगा तो तभी और अभी के में कुछ फर्क ही नहीं है, ऐसा लग रहा है. अभी तो यही सब लोग करते हैं, गिव एंड टेक. अब ये करोगे तो ही हमें ये मिलेगा, ऐसा है. So powerful line, Prabhuji. And this is a supreme personality of Godhead gives pleasure to all living beings. This is also most powerful line, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
जी आप बहुत ग्रेट डिवोटी है, सचमुच कहना पड़ेगा, मानना पड़ेगा, बहुत ग्रेट डिवोटी आप.
नहीं प्रभुजी, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. सॉरी प्रभुजी.
Thank you, Mataji. If there are
So
no
we are expecting last few minutes, I think.
The Nrsimha prayers, after the Nrsimha prayers, Lalit Priya Mataji, Samta Mataji, Raksha Mataji, Sanjeev Prabhuji and myself will be there, others can log up. Now I will request Sagar Prabhuji to complete the class with the Nrsimha prayer, please.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obsession. All go to Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhai. Namaste Narasimhai. Prahlad Dahine, Prahlad Dahine. Hiranyakasipur Bhaksahar, Hiranyakasipur Bhaksahar, Silatankar Nathale, Silatankar Nathale. Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha, Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha. Ite yami, Ito Narsingha, ite yami, Ito Narsingha. My Narsingha, Hriday Narsingha, my Narsingha, Hriday Narsingha, Narasinghamadin Saranam Prapade, Narasinghamadin Saranam Prapade, Tavakala Kamala Bhare, Nakhadbhuta Singham, Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam. केशवधीता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कल कमल भरे नखाद्भुत सिंगम धरित हिरण्यकशिपूर्तनुभृंगम केशवधीता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे नरसिंह देव भगवान की जय भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय शिला प्रपात की जय चारु प्रभु की जय शरद प्रभु की जय गुरुदेव की जय ऑल assembled devotee की जय हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Sarad Prabhu, Charu Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees. Now, as I said, with Priya Mataji, Nityasakhi Mataji, Santa Mataji, Raksha Mataji, and Sanjeev Prabhuji, and myself to be present, and all others may log off. We'll have the discussion after this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sarvabhaiji. Hare Krishna, Sarvabhaiji. Hare Krishna.
You want a break or something?
No break is required.
Okay. Actually, I already said while in the discussion, see the reason when I was mentioning about that, yes, it's a fact. It's I really want to help all of you, but I'm really fighting against the time, time is very difficult for me to find, extremely difficult. So that is the reason. So what I really recommend that you among yourselves, as I said last night, that you begin to analyze yourself, self-analysis and collective analysis, that you also develop the themes, and then you see my version of it, and then see where actually you differ from what I come up with, and try to find the reason for that. Okay, and I'm telling you, I cannot overemphasize. You really have to focus tremendously. You really engrossed yourself in the chapter. Read several times. Now, because of my practice of years and years of practice, I grasp things very quickly. And since I don't have time, I read maybe 2-3 times only actually, and then immediately start developing what are the themes, because you really have to catch immediately what is that each paragraph or each chapter is talking about, what is the central line, central topic that he's talking about, like answering the questions of this Rajnath or the Vijay Kumar, how Babaji is really looking into that and trying to answer that. And from the way he answers, immediately Rajnath, Vijay Kumara, they develop more questions. And the questions will arise only if you invest more time in it. You cannot do that unless you dive into it. That is the reason I'm saying that every one of you, especially those 4 or 5 people who wants to learn this art of coming up with the themes, is to really invest. And you need to invest every day, 3-4 hours minimum. Actually, Sharad Prabhu has to invest a lot more, because really his lectures, he's been able to give a lecture. If he himself admitted, if my PowerPoints were not there, it would be very hard for him, so I done a lot of my work for him through my PowerPoints, and that allows him to give the classes. But he has to learn to be self-sufficient sooner or later, and so all of you also. And the way, there's nothing extraordinary. What I'm doing, exactly what you can do that. Just spend enough time, constantly engrossed, dive in deeper and deeper into it. Just like when we solve the crossword puzzles, Sudoku puzzles, chess, game of chess, you really have to dive in it. Initially, you don't find the solution, but when you dive into it inside and become oblivious to your surroundings, and just that thing and you, that's all has to be there. Then you will find the solution. Immediately you'll find the solution. You will realize, you will see those themes coming out right in front of your eyes. See, when I read verses, I literally see in front of my eyes those verses, and I read those from my mental image. That's how you remember all the verses like that. So this chapter also, I studied so deeply enough. And then second thing, after you do that, then it's called manana. Manana matlab constantly regurgitation. What is that right word? The cows, when they eat, they have 2 stomachs, right? One stomach, they store all the food in there and then start regurgitating constantly, just like mathna. जिससे दही में से मक्खन निकालते हैं, छाछ दही की बटर मिल्क बनाते हैं, बटर मिल्क में से उसको मथना पड़ता है, right? Constantly वो मथनिंग, the churning of it, then the butter comes out, because initially you don't see the butter. Butter will come only after churning. So same thing, the chapter, when you read 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times, then you start churning about it. You stop, close the book, and whatever you read, whatever you understood from within, you start churning about it in your mind. Then you will see, things are popping out, like a makhan nikalta hai chhas mein se, butter milk mein se makhan nikalta hai, वैसे मक्खन निकल आएगा उसमें, and मक्खन से घी बनेगा. So वैसे कीजिए आप. So मुझे वही आप सबसे ये कहना था कि मेरी बात को बुरा मत मानिएगा. मैं सचमुच मैं आपको बहुत हेल्प करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, मगर मेरे पास टाइम नहीं है, बिल्कुल टाइम नहीं है. And I sometimes, every 5-6 nights I do that, and then couple of nights I sleep. I get so exhausted, I immediately fall, immediately go to sleep, and then 5-6 hours I sleep. But that happens only every once a while, like that it happens when I'm overly exhausted. But I derive a great pleasure, really, great pleasure. I think, breathe, eat, everything in this whatever is my front, that is all going on in my mind throughout 24 hours a day. Even the hours that I'm not working, that's constantly in my mind. So you have to dive into it to come to that situation. Then there's nothing impossible for you. I'm telling you, really nothing impossible. You will become even surpass me. At the age of 80 years old, this guy can do that. You are half my age, many of you, half my age. You should be able to do it a lot more. More energy is required. I have limited energy. Nonetheless, भगवान ने मुझे बहुत ये एक स्पेशल मर्सी है मेरे लिए, भगवान की एक देन है मेरे लिए कि I look at it and I study it and I understand it very quickly, and then I sit down preparing my PowerPoints once I've engrossed, digested, and उसका मक्खन निकाला हुआ मैंने, and then I sit down and prepare my PowerPoint, and there also I spend hours and hours. Like today, for one particular slide, I spend 4 hours. One particular slide, 4 hours. Even a slide त्रुटि उसमें दिखाई देती है, I go back again to repair it. My eyes cannot tolerate any little weakness is there, any something is mistakes there. I go back again and again. I do it, redo it again all the time, and every time I redo it, the product becomes much more polished. So what you see is there is the result of that thing, you know. So that's really I wanted to tell you all about it. Spend time, find time, you know, and time is Krishna. Time is Krishna. So if you work for him, Krishna will find the time for you. It's just like he keeps me busy all the time, you know. So that is the reason how I keep away in the material world, and more I'm in the spiritual world because of that. ये भगवान की देन है, भगवान की बहुत मेहरबानी है मेरे पे। आप सब devotees हैं, आप लोगों की मेहरबानी है मेरे पे बहुत, because you are there. That's what I'm doing that. Because I now realize it's a worthwhile, it's a mission of the Lord. And you are engaging me, all of you are engaging me. So I'm very, very grateful to all of you. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. We have understood what you have said, and we will try our best.
Thank you. Anybody wants to say something?
હરે કૃષ્ણ પ્રભુજી, તમે જે કીધું એ
Actually,
ગુજરાતીનો એક બહુ સરસ word છે પ્રભુજી, વાગોળવું.
Yes.
ગાય જે રીતે વાગોળે, વાગોળવું એટલે મનન કરવું, ચિંતન કરવું, સ્મરણ કરવું.
ગાય શું કરે છે? ગાય પેલો ગાય પછી ઈ જ કરે છે ને?
હા, વાગોળે છે.
વાગોળે છે. તો મનન કરવું જોઈએ હંમેશા. જે તમે સ્ટડી કરો ને મનન કરવું જોઈએ. નવી વાતો તમારા દિમાગમાં આવશે બધી વાતો.
Yes, પ્રભુજી, yes.
The
Thank
new
you so much.
inventions happen, new ideas develop like that, you know.
Sorry, Prabhuji, the recording is still on and the YouTube telecast is still on. Can we get it stopped, please?
Okay.
Okay. Nitya Sakhi Mataji, you want to say anything? Nitya Sakhi Mataji? आप सब बहुत talented है actually. Samata Mataji is also very, very talented. Hare Krishna. So now I'm not going to take any more time of you, okay? Hari Bol. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.